It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up, keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
Greetings, and welcome to Context Matters. The date is a day in January, January 15, 2026. And you know what that means? We basically reached 2 weeks in January, Just like that. It means there's 2 weeks left in January. And look, they wanted to say that January was the longest month in the year. That's the longest for the economic year, because if you spend off all of your money during the Yuletide season, then you know how it is. It means that you might not have what you need. Now, if you are joining me from Reggae Global Radio or flagship station, I want to say welcome to Context Matters. If you are on TikTok, keep ticking and talking, tap up the screen and share the live. And to the people on YouTube, I want you all to big up yourself. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to be with me. And I'm pleased and proud to announce that Context Matters, airing on all of these spaces, these stations and their syndicates. Coda Network always. You can catch it on a Friday if you miss it, or on the YouTube. But I am pleased to announce that Context Matters will be airing locally. Locally, what we mean by that? It will be aired live. So you must tune in on Best FM, right? Best FM. So that's 100.1, 100.3, 100.5, 100.7, 100.9 on your FM dial. Yeah, Best FM 100. Better vibes, them say, right? And you can look to bestfm.com live for more information. So Context Matters is now on local radio. So if you can't catch it on the visual, if you can't catch it on Reggae Global Radio, you can't be on YouTube because you're driving, so you can't look and drive. You're not on the TikTok where the TikTok is talking and ticking, or you're not on the YouTube, you know what it is. Best FM Live. So big up to all the sponsors, big up to all your viewers, big up to all your listeners on Best FM. I'm looking forward to a great partnership, and Context Matters is the show that put things in context. There are many things that when you hear it not sound too right, or it goes over somebody's head. So we put it in context, because critical thinking is a skill that is necessary in the Jamaican space. And I must say to you, we must ensure that we improve our critical skills in 2026 and moving forward, because as a nation in Jamaica, there are going to be decisions that we have to make. And I'm telling you, the hardest decisions must be made with mature consideration and a bit of knowledge. So the show today is connecting the dots, knowledge versus speculation. And why we're saying that? Because there's a lot of times that people speculate. And certainly in the profession, the most noble profession in the free world, the profession of law, speculation has no place in the court of law. Why is this important? Well, people hear things and they speculate. Let me give you an example of speculation that turns into what is known as 9-day wonder. When I was growing up, when I was a little, when I was small and growing up, the first thing you used to hear when police interact with the citizens of this country, right? When Inner Circle have the song, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Well, they used to surrender. And in Jamaica, every time the media show up after a confrontation with the police, even if you was in the middle of New Kingston, the police would always say, the men escape in nearby bushes. Even when there wasn't any bushes, they would always escape. And it's not escaping, it's the one with the H on it. They always come to the camera and they say, the men escape in nearby bushes. They escape in the bushes, right? Yalao, bounty killer style. And then there was an evolution pre-election after a series of state of emergencies which didn't work, and millions and billions spent in Zozo and all of that. Guess what happens? Well, meet your judge or meet your maker. Shoot and ask questions later. These are terms that was sanctioning and ordering the execution of young men who are cloaked in the presumptions of innocence. And if anybody knows of the most seminal case, the Minister of Justice this week, while is talking about amendments to the Jury Act, spoke about one of the most famous cases in Jamaica that went to the Privy Council a few years ago, that spoke about pronouncements from the court. Yes? So we know without any form of what you'd call it. Can go back to your okay. We know without any form of contradiction, any form of misinformation, that the convictions aren't final until the last court pronounces it. So if the man don't go to the Privy Council and the Court of Appeal in Jamaica pronounces and upholds the conviction, then the conviction remains. But in the justice system, due process runs from the beginning to the end of the whole legal process. And though people celebrate at first instance when you hear about convictions, or in the civil court you hear that persons get judgment, it don't over till it goes through the ranks of the court. So one wonders where the court is a competent jurisdiction to ascertain guilt or innocence. You don't believe me? Well, you just do something wrong in this country and you're not a tapanaris. You're not an upper class citizen of this country. If somebody even call your name, I mean, just this week, a young man was chopped up by a man, and the man had the sense and the wherewithal to chop up the man, chop him up in his back, and run to the police station and say, "Me just chop up a man," and him point a gun at me. And the police say, "What?" And they go for the young man and lock him up. After they lock him up, then they take him to the hospital to dress his wounds. No gun found, but the allegations of the gun. So you're not cloaked in the presumption of innocence in Jamaica. The respect for the Constitution is almost on zero. And what you find is speculation is all that requires. And so having found out that rather than strengthening investigative capacity and respecting the Constitution and due process, encouraging citizens and sanctioning or empowering citizens to participate in the policing activities, what they would have done in the alternative is to simply perform what is known as extrajudicial killings. But the problem with extrajudicial killings is the same problem that people have with the death penalty. And in a very seminal case, Tremendon and the Queen, at the time the Queen was the head of the monarch, and the Privy Council pronounced in that case that the death penalty is reserved for the worst of the worst. And whenever Whatever that look like, we will see it when we know it. Why am I raising this? Because it just means that extrajudicial killings can never be justified. It can never be right in my mind. All right. So once we have that and we appreciate that, we will definitely have a sense to analyze the whole dichotomy or the whole reality about extrajudicial killings. And this is in response to connecting the dots, because Indicom is coming under pressure. There's about 56 police officers and correctional officers who have been charged for their conduct. And that simply suggests that where the investigations are concerned, it's not enough to say the new thing. While men no longer escaping mirrored by bushes, they were confronting the police and they died as a result of confronting the police. But Indicom says otherwise. So while there's speculation that all of these people are gunmen, and if you know about the 4-year-old, the 15-year-olds, and in particular, I always have to mention Neymar, the selector, who was murdered. And that's the thing. They speculate, you can speculate, and that it will always seem a little bit odd. You will never appreciate or get to understand, or you have to understand before you appreciate. So the understanding means that you have the requisite knowledge to make the determination. But in the absence of that, one cannot say that somebody is a gang member unless they're convicted before the court. So it would be allegedly. So if the police come and says that there was a shootout, it's allegedly there was a shootout. Especially with the statistics and the data coming from Indicom that when firearms are recovered on these particular shootouts, the firearm in question by the suspects were either never fired, so there was not a shootout, or if they were fired, it never harmed a police officer. It also means then that the response is not proportionate to the threat. And even if you are a police officer, the Privy Council, the House of Lords, the highest court in the land, have already decided in a seminal case, are the King against Clegg, right? That even if you are a police officer, military, border patrol, the rules of criminal law apply to you. Self-defense in its natural form applies. So you can't shoot people in the back or put them to kneel down and shoot them in the head and say it was a shootout and so they died. They met their maker. It's murder. And that is why the response from the JCF is to put out as early as possible that 1,000 body cameras has now come to Jamaica. It would then mean that although it reaches Jamaica, it's not attached to the police officers who are going to go on these missions and these operations. Because what we want to see the people to make the determination is the reality that the engagement and the response, we don't care how the engagement was. It can be Chuck Norris, it can be Karate Kid, it can be like Bruce Lee, it can be Clint Eastwood, it can be Van Damme, it can be Schwarzenegger, it can be Predator versus Schwarzenegger again, it can be all of the G.I. Joe, it can be all of the show, them Platoon, whatever you want to call it. We want the video evidence so we can see the temperament of the officers when they are engaging with the citizen. And if anybody know who Breonna Taylor was, an American woman who they went into her house and they pumped bullets into her And again, the story is just different black faces with the same amount of aggression by police officers. I'm not picking on the police officers doing it. I just want people to get a sense of what when we say connecting the dots, having the knowledge versus the speculation. Because again, everything is speculation, and we have to deal with it. Situation ethics. And if we deal with it like situation ethics, then we come to understand immediately, we have a good understanding of what we're the nature of the creature that we're dealing with, understanding how things work in law. And the court of public opinion is always going to be problematic, you know. And when decisions are rendered in the court, people are upset. But I can tell you that the justice system works. What's happening is conduct outside of the justice system because people know the justice system works. So it has to be problematic if the very people who are responsible for writing the files and preparing the files and bringing it to court and bringing people to justice is going to be the judge and jury. That was never what was contemplated. And so you see, what this conversation is about protecting the integrity of systems in Jamaica. If the integrity of systems in Jamaica was protected, respected, because each and every one of us is a representative of Jamaica. We are all ambassadors of Jamaica. Every son and every daughter of Jamaica is an ambassador of Jamaica. You might not be an ambassador for the government of Jamaica, but you're an ambassador. If you leave here, just look at Michael Hehu Jackson. That young man, a TikTok sensation, yes, is touring England more than enough artists, more than enough people who say, I am an entertainer. I am an entertainment practitioner, and them not getting bookings and them not touring London and not touring Europe like this young man. So you might see something and you might not like it, but even TikTokers, Rosalie is a very famous person on TikTok, and all the other people that surrounds us, you really can't see them because right now Rosalie take up the whole of the space. So if you take a picture with Rosalie, you're not going to show up on the camera. But that's another conversation. But big up Rosalie, you're large and in charge. Famous and ambassador to Jamaica. So her conduct then would be a representation of Jamaica. Whether or not that representation is positive or negative is conversations that we're to have. Context matters. What you can't do is if you choose to be a negative influence, you can't ask to be positive in other arenas, especially if people not putting it in context. And a negative influence would mean that if it's entertainment and people accept that this is entertainment and accept it for what it is, then naturally that would be the result. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you are murdering the sons and daughters of Jamaica, then you are depriving Jamaica of the opportunity to have people who are the best versions of themselves and people who have become great ambassadors. And somebody, most honorable ACS Alpha, says it's mostly the sons. And that is true. But I like to put it in context, and I don't want nobody to say that I'm sexist and I'm leaving out the women. So we're including everybody. But also to just stop and pause and say to ourselves, what is it that we're going for? Well, why did I raise this thing about ambassadors? Well, our Prime Minister, in response to the capturing of top government official in the Caribbean, in particular Venezuela. Maduro was captured on the 3rd of January and brought to America. 500 million worth of Venezuelan oil was sold this week by the United States. The nations were called to condemn the actions. The United Nations made a little noise about it. It was reminiscent of 1989 when Noriega was also captured and brought to the United States and ultimately convicted. But our Prime Minister says that it is his job and his duty to navigate the waters to ensure the safety and protection of its citizens and the relationship with our neighbors in North America. And so he is navigating strategically to ensure that the best interests of Jamaica is secured. Now, you always have to take people at their word. Many persons critique, including Bruce Golding, the former Prime Minister. He had a different take on it, and he came out swinging very hard where that was concerned. But he is not the Prime Minister, and I guess he is not in a position to be swept up in the night and captured as well. So I guess he sits in a different position. What was surprising, however, and again, remember, we are connecting the dots. So we're dealing with knowledge versus speculation. And so we have to have these facts in order to say we know what is going on and interpreting or saying what makes sense. Now, let me see if I can make this any better. It's not any better. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, yeah, even that's bothering me. Yeah. So what that means then is the shock or the surprise to hear that 75 nations were now being excluded from the immigrant visa program in America indefinitely through their embassies. And the surprise after a statement like that from the Prime Minister about treading lightly and navigating waters, kind of signaling that relations are good in the United States. Now, this is international law, so we could have conversations about sovereignty. We could have conversations about just whether or not the representation on the international stage is one that is serving the interests of Jamaicans, not Jamaica. Again, context matters. We have to separate the two. And to my surprise, Jamaica was on the list. In fact, the only Caribbean islands not on the list is Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad. There's another one. But yeah, not surprised that Trinidad wasn't on it. And Trinidad not on the list. Trinidad made it clear that they weren't speaking in one voice and one accord with CARICOM. In fact, they're a part of CARICOM, but CARICOM can't speak for them. That was clear. And not on the list. And today was saying that she's hired JP Morgan, she being the Prime Minister of Trinidad, hired JP Morgan, a company, to borrow $1 billion US for her country. So she's serving her country and her people. Their immigration visa application status is in full effect. But having said that, remember, context matters. That the immigrant visa means that it is green card applications as well as transition from non-immigrant to immigrant. Steps of migration is what is being slowed down by the United States. It's a big difference, and that's significant. So if you're listening, one would say, well, how is Jamaica excluded? Well, it is those who want to get them green card and run we left Jamaica. It's them that is on hold right now. And that is why I speak about being ambassadors of your country. We have a culture where you see once you get in the door, you kick down the door and you put up grill and block cement, steel, and put up a wall so nobody else can come through the door. This is the conduct of Jamaicans before that has caused a situation like this, so that when persons are protecting the interests of their sovereign nation, the act of excluding nations will seem so done with vitriol and oppressive. But protection is not oppression. If Jamaicans, when they go to these countries, would behave themselves, then they wouldn't be on the list. And they wouldn't fall in the category of burdening the system that is in that country. So again, it doesn't affect your ability to get your B1 visa or your student visa or your work and travel farm work program, these type of non-immigrant visas, that you can still make the application. So yes, the US Embassy is still open, and the alarm is about a small class of people that want to run or leave Jamaica, or want to have dual citizenship and want to say them they are foreign. Because the idea of a non-immigrant visa was always so you could go, see what's going on, and come back to your country. But mind you, for those who the country has no opportunity for, because I was saying this, with the best of efforts and why people must focus. Elevation comes through motivation and determination. Unless you're going to use nepotism, you're going to have to put in the work. But we must not also ignore the fact that Jamaica exists as two Jamaicas. Saying this is just a harsh reality. So that when people are saying that prosperity is for Jamaica and stuff like that, it's only one set of people. And if right now they say the economic viability of Jamaica is that is the highest it has ever been in your lifetime, it's for only one set of people. Because if Brock and Nana Money and Mina Response was a person, people would be putting their hands up right now. And that is a reality that can't be ignored. Okay? So having said that, the ambassador role that each citizen plays when they go on the world stage is of importance. And don't get me wrong, there has to be redemption. Redemption is there. So no one is saying that everybody that leaves is going to be the best of themselves. Nobody's going to say that. Certainly I wouldn't say that. But redemption is there for those who mess up. So I see first it was Squash. Now I see Chronic Law. ICE have them, but ICE have him. But again, not going to speculate. I don't have the knowledge. And the way ICE is behaving, one wonders. And I saw a statement put out that ICE agents have immunity. So neither governors or mayors or local authorities, not even FBI and state officers, can intervene with the conduct of Spice. I said Spice, which is really ICE, right? So that is important, because they have been given a mandate to do whatever they want to remove people. In fact, they ask Jamaicans if they are citizens, and the question put in context mean, were you born in America? If the answer is no and you said yes, you're a citizen, they're saying that you lied. And Trump has this new thing about reversing citizenship. So that's why it is important. Knowledge is power. It is important in this situation. And I see walking in divine purpose is saying some Jamaican caused visas to go Cayman, but it was the government of Jamaica that caused the visa program for England though. They signed off on it. It wasn't the conduct and actions of Jamaica, because we like Barbados and Trinidad could just simply go, and we opted for the visa system. And one wonders, successive governments, one wonders why it is that they are on a mission to turn ordinary citizens into criminals. Because they would know that you need to have a clean police record to be able to apply for a visa. Your record could have clean little more and them still don't give it to you, much less putting those things on you and forcing you to answer questions like, have you ever been arrested before? Have you ever been convicted? Knowing that when you say yes, they're gonna that's a a strike on you, taking you outside of constitutional protection, because when you're going for visas, it's not as of right. And so they have a right to deny you if they want. And so we have to look at these things and process it as connecting the dots, seeing where the truth lies, seeing how we assess these situations in its entirety. Right. Very important. So again, that is what we look at when we make the assessment in terms of what one person says versus what the next person says. So that is critical. So again, the whole idea or concept of visa, the visa restriction, just making it clear. I'm not going to beat it with a dead horse. I'm just going to simply make it clear that in relation to this restriction, it has no effect on the non-immigrant visas. So persons who say, boy, I want a visa for go foreign, you still can make the application. At least that's how it is right now. Somebody said, how did Jamaica decide what England does in their country? Well, the question was asked by the Home Office as to whether Jamaica would agree to enter or to start a visa system. We remember we are part of the Commonwealth and was still subjects of the King. And Jamaica decided that it would be for the best because, again, our ambassadors were embarrassing us. Young Jamaicans were kept going away and getting in trouble, and that is the result. And again, if we also put it in context, strong leaders would make the argument, pitch the argument that there are more progressive Jamaicans than those who are bad. And that is a reality. There are more progressive Jamaicans, there are more ambitious, decent, prideful Jamaicans walking around in Jamaica than the bad apples. And in this case, these bad apples aren't even Ethiopian apples. These are not apples that can spoil the whole bunch. You can pick them out. They really can pick them out. So it's not a case. And again, as I say, the purpose of the criminal justice system is to foster rehabilitation, reintegration, and corrective behavior. So children live what they learn. So if we're not in the business of setting the role models and showing people what crime and punishment is, what reform is, what a system and incentive systems to do right looks like, then we're not going to get anywhere. Here's what I'm going to say about that. We have Melissa, which is a natural disaster. There is no public education on governance in this country. And so people just come to podiums and do everything to showboat and create political points. So playing politics in the middle of a disaster could never work for the benefit of the people. To the point where care packages that were to be given out weeks ago are now stale. Probably wouldn't be advised to give those out because somebody in their right mind didn't know that if you kept these things, even though they're non-perishable, if you keep flour and rice locked up in a cupboard, flour get weevil. And if you keep things in a storeroom and the place is not properly sanitized, roaches and rodents and all kind of things is gonna come to it. I'm not casting any aspersions on anybody, but to say that if we don't move with the expedition necessary to provide the help across Jamaica, then we just doing things to make statistics, and the lived human experience is being forgotten. And this is a reality. Someone said, Mr. Isaac, I do think Jamaica should also have a visa system to where anyone coming in need of a visa, I'm trying to see what the person says, of a visa, and give time to leave. Also, they shouldn't just come enjoy, buy out, live, do business freestyle. All of this is wrong. Yeah, you see, the problem is we need people to come to our country because we need the tourism. So when somebody's coming and says, where should I go now? I'm from a first world country. Of course I'm going to travel. I need to vacation and I need some sun because the snow is falling. Where should I go? And say, come to Jamaica and feel all right. Yes, man, Harry, man. You think them going to come in here if them going to say you need a visa for some immigration officer say, oi, your visa expired and go back on the plane. They're not about to do that. In fact, it's always so ironic because the pet peeve is, again, the immigration system is to keep out certain people. But here's again, let me give you knowledge. The true purpose of immigration is to ensure that persons are not going to come into the country and become a burden to the economic and political system in any country. You need to know that. So the only reason why you need visas is because you're coming from a country where they know that you're not going to return. And majority of the people who come to this country, they return. And you can just check it from our census and the population. The reason for our population reduction, again, if you connect the dots, they're murdering the procreators before them even can procreate. Right now, if I get a youth, want to have a youth, I have to do it from him at 11, 12, 13, because as you can see, the police this year have decided that if you do it from them at 4, they won't have any children. That's really what is happening. So the people are not able to migrate and start lives. And I will say this again, Jamaican people are very, 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 very unique. They can leave this space coming from the worst ghetto, and when them land a foreign, they become the best set of people. They become astronauts, they become principals, they become head of the school district, they become judges. They even get to run as president, and they are vice presidents, and they are secretaries of states and all of that. Colin Campbell, I can tell you a lot of them. They go to these countries. Same thing for England, everywhere in the world. There is a Jamaican doing great. And it is opportunity that is lacking in this country. So while I hear people complaining about road, and I hear people complaining about garbage collection, these things are true, I mean, you can only tell central government who is responsible for it. Government, if your garbage is at your gate in any parish and it's piling up, the government is not doing it. And you know what the government's excuse is? They're too busy looking about the west, so they can't look at the east. So from Kingston back to St. Thomas, through Portland, through St. Mary, and go round to probably even St. Anne, St. Catherine. These parishes, the garbage is not being collected because government don't want to collect it. So the people are to understand governance and understand who is responsible for doing what, as well as the red tapes for allocation of monies and how monies are expended, and the accountability that is required. So and then people do, because Jamaicans, you say they're easy to say, sure, I know nothing that, and so they're not alarmed that while it is that America could sell 500 million US worth of Venezuela oil, it no matter to them say 521 million of Jamaican taxpayers' money was misappropriated at the university hospital. And then they can single out one company, and then the bloggers run off about, yes, we say, oh, I must say PNP own that the company there we need for regulate. The person responsible for the regulation and the accountability is the government. It is not enough. And whenever these things happen and the government drop the ball and cannot account for it. But I'm not here. I'm not going to relive the overwhelming evidence of corruption. It's pointless to do that, because that is not what is the primary concern for most Jamaicans. Most Jamaicans would be happy to get a care package. Most Jamaicans would be happy to have a semblance of a flicker of independence. If they could get their salaries, then they wouldn't have to beg and they wouldn't have to be embarrassed when people say no. If they could get a good amount of money to ensure that they have food to eat, those are the things that they are concerned about. And so when they bawl about roads, everybody wants roads. The road network is embarrassing. Whether or not the country can take all its GDP to fix roads and then don't do anything else is another question. Because for me, let me tell you what my embarrassment is right now. I have visited Port Antonio Hospital. The beds are not the best beds. The hospital needs upgrading. It needs to become an A-type hospital so people can stop dying of stroke, or if they're in a car accident, they might as well just stay on the roadside and dead, because they just cannot get the type of care. Not because the people aren't qualified to give the care, but because the facility is not upgraded and the government has done nothing to do so. And then, yes, I am the member of parliament down there, so of course they're gonna cuss me and say, MP, you for fix the hospital, or that you for do. But the politics of it is that even the very board at the hospital, as constituted, if you leave it to who is there now, they don't even want the member of parliament to have nothing to do with it, because of labor right. And they play politics with the lives of people. And I just say, okay. So here it is now. I go up there because a very, 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 very good comrade is having some health issues, and he finds himself at the hospital. And of course, I have to go visit. And when I visit and I see him on the bed that he's on, I said, my God, boy. Okay, we said the people them in a prison, they're on better bed, because that would not be true. Them never have sponge in there, and when the chink would have name them up with them there. So woe be on to them. But I look and I said, boy, healthcare in this country, it certainly is not Obamacare. It certainly is not the type of care that is in keeping with the right to life. Because a state-run institution is not supposed to contribute to your death, you know. We know and understand the principles of causation, and we know the cases. We know about Smith, we know about Jordan, we know about Cheshire, and we know about the intervening acts that can break the causation. We know all of that, you know. But as I said, my embarrassment is I have 2 hospital beds, state-of-the-art beds to give to the hospital, and I'm saying, I not even know if me carry it up there and donate it, if when me turn my back, them I gonna roll it out and carry it go another hospital, because that's how I just don't know. And so you're afraid that the efforts that you make is going to come to naught because of how the system is set up. But then I know that as I live down there in Portland, I said, God forbid that you should have to go up there. I want that when I donate the bed, I say, knock on wood, if I come there, make sure whoever depart the one where me I donate, that will make me go up on it if light spear. I don't know. But either way, when I work out the protocol, it is my intentions to do right. Just like how it is my intention to ensure that in the far areas, in the fellowship division. If you go up Bellevue right now, I'm too ashamed for show you the pictures. If you see how the garbage just spread out and then now come for it. And it is a punishment for the people of Portland, because the government has decided that they should not have voted against them. So they're punished and they're left with the garbage. And I raised it last year in the parliament, and I said to the health minister, I said, the Honorable Minister Tufton, will you use your authority to ensure that garbage collection is done in a timely manner? Because the hurricane never even come yet. But to ensure that when these things happen, when we don't get leptospirosis and we don't have the mosquito. And if you look in the media, you see the health authority in Portland is saying they're doing their best to minimize the dengue and whatever the mosquito diseases, as well as cases of leptospirosis is in Portland. And then the non-garbage collection is also a reality. And so I'm sitting and I'm saying to myself, what is it then that can be done? Because the role of the opposition, so what can the opposition do to help that position? What exactly I'm doing now? I'm speaking out against it and making the public aware. But making press releases is for sensationalism. And so I'm always loath to put out a press release so everybody can say you chat too much. Because that's what the bloggers and the vloggers do. They get paid to come on the comments and say you chat too much, because they don't really care about people. Right? And somebody said, my garbage collect every 2 months and I work in the health sector. Remember, this is not limited to Portland. This is a Jamaican crisis. And so when the PR machinery comes up and they said, oh, we have 10 garbage trucks for $100 million to assist with the cleanup. There was a cleaning up thing that needed to take place long time before even the hurricane did come. So when you neglect half of Jamaica so that you can put on the world stage that we're doing something in record time, and you can manipulate data, but the data can never match up to the lived human experience. Just appreciate what it is I am saying to you. Yes? That if you respect human life, and if you respect yourself, if you love yourself, there's just certain things you cannot accept for other people. So you create a society that is angry. You create a society that is depressed. You create a society that is so uncomfortable. You create a society that feels that they cannot function in this chaos and dysfunction. If you say, if you look, remember, who is responsible for roads? Well, the NWA is responsible for main roads. The parish council is responsible for parochial roads. The farm roads are for the Ministry of Agriculture. And just this week, Tuesday, Warmington had brought a private motion to ensure that the roads in the housing schemes, which nobody is responsible for, which is why they deteriorate, can be brought under the arm of the local government and NWA and all of these things. Debated in the House and unanimously approved, because it's far time now that we kind of legislate that these roads can be fixed. So when people come on, like Roxy, says she's from Portland, so she said, and say, fix the road, them MP, if we go fix the road, them, because she lacks the knowledge and appreciation of who's responsible for the roads. And I'm happy that in Parliament I was able to ask the Prime Minister about the fixing of roads. And if anybody expects me to take up my resources, my personal money to fix roads, you're mistaken. You're mistaken, because the Prime Minister has made it absolutely clear. Central government is responsible for roads. He went further to say, Buchanan, member from East Portland, let me protect you and let me make it public that no member of Parliament is responsible for roads. And they shouldn't even be using it to campaign. And if they did, need I say more? It's they're campaigning because central government is NWA responsible for the road. NWA will come and say, MP, we're fixing this road. You want we fix a road, show we a road and we can fix it, but are we responsible for it? So something you won't see me on a presser and I press the road like me know for drive presser and steam and roller. You won't see me, you won't see me dumping asphalt and using my shovel and knocking it to pretend that I'm doing something. Like any MP ever do that, I just think that they're just an idiot. I think it's showboating, and I think that it's as silly as the mix-up that took place this week in St. Thomas. And so much more progressive things could happen in this country. But I saw what good sense prevail, and I saw the member from St. Thomas Eastern and the state minister having cordial conversations and brought some clarity to mischief because of showboating. Even now, there is the Brownbrook Urban Center that's being done by the Factories Corporation of Jamaica. Yes, and private partners, NCB, the NCB group. They're the ones that's doing it. The young men who offer themselves as laborers is given some $3,000 to work for 12 hours. If it's more, God bless them soul. So it's the equivalent of slave labor, but it's something, right? But they work because that's the type of work that is provided for them. And when that is done, there will be a ribbon cutting, and you will hear the politics come with it. And whether they invite the member of Parliament, which is me for Portland Eastern, or not, matters not to me. If it's serving the people, those things can never be political points. Political points is to make sure that the sons and daughters of this country are able to be educated. If they can get some political assistance through the CDF, that is where it will come from. And private partners, the diaspora, walking in the vine, please put up my GoFundMe so they know that they must send me money. Johnny, we're almost done. Tax return coming, them need to start sending me money so that the other side can say, where the money gone, where the money gone. But anyway, as I said, these things are very, very, very important to know what it is that the member of Parliament is responsible for doing. And again, if the government is giving hurricane relief and they don't give none yet in terms of the monies or the solidarity program, nobody get the money yet. And all of these things that they're doing, people must understand who is the person that's doing it. So you put you if you get $20,000 from government, this MP will tell you the government will give you the money, come sign up, my mail to sign up so you can get it. Those are not the things that I envision becoming a member of parliament to try to take credit for stuff like that. The government, whichever government voted for them or not, is important for you to know that the government is to serve you. And again, to the Prime Minister says the purpose of government is to help the needy, not help everyone. So that's also put in context. So for me, teaching the young and training people how to become independent is what my purpose is. And yes, they come to my office, which is always open. It's open 6 days a week. And yet people will say that, oh, but MP, your office not open. They don't go there, but they say that. And when they go there, they get the assistance that they need. You can't get everything, but you will get some assistance. That's what the office is there for. And I encourage people to use the office because at a minimum, you'll be educated on how to access government funding and resources, as well as urgent needs can be met, whether through the diaspora, whether through private assistance, or whatever is available from the government. But this thing where people sound an alarm and try to, and always in the political mode to blame, it must come with understanding. We have to educate the public so they know exactly what is going on. And why am I even making this this plea or bringing this up? Because if the people don't know what is going on, they don't know what they're voting for. If the people don't know what are the things that they need to improve in their individual lives and collective community living, then it's kind of pointless. It's kind of pointless to even have a political system if we're not educating the public, empowering the public, and including them in the process. And so that's certainly the reality in terms of having the knowledge rather than the speculation. That's in particular, because again, if roads are damaged and the government says that I am not, and somebody says, and the MPs use it as PR, thank you for context matters, opening the eyes of their ignorance. Yes, Marsha Clark Hudson. It is important that people understand that your life is not PR. Your life is not public relations. And you should as an independent, free-minded individual. That's what the criminal law see you as, an autonomous being, an independent free thinker. The law is seeing you as that. That's why the police can run down pan the youth them and just murder them. Because the law presupposes that your conduct is your own and you're a free mind, free thinker, autonomous being, free to say yes and no and make decisions for yourself. So how dare an MP would want to take pictures of you when you're getting a care package so then can document it and have social media excitement to say that they're doing things? And put it in context, I have given out more care packages than what the government could have allocated or provided for me. If what they allocated was all that I gave out, the people of Portland would have dead for hungry. So let's leave that right there and move on to things that are more substantial and what is in the works. We have to know the knowledge and separate it. And let us not use speculation. And open our eyes to the things that's going on. At a very, very, well, we're at 6 o'clock. So we're taking our break right now. So see you at the top of the hour.
It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
Right, to simply say that I certainly cannot support.
Member from West Central, St. James. Right, thanks. Go ahead.
Cannot support motion 4. I don't think as a country we are here to, we are there yet. Jamaica as it is a two-society Jamaica. The reality is that crime is so high, it's hard at sometimes to regulate. Whenever the night comes, many things can happen. To protect the integrity of the electoral process and increase even by 1 hour would be dangerous. We should look or try to consider, especially the geographical locations of areas, whether it could at all, even with the advancements in technology, support an increase in the voting hour. As it is right now, the integrity of the voting process, the containment, the best way to contain is the time constraints. There are many other things that can be considered in terms of how ROPA, with an amendment, can regulate how the private sector treats with the ability of voters to get the time to actually go and vote without fear of intimidation or loss of income or whatever it is that would prevent them from participating in the process. But one of the greatest ways to protect the integrity of the process is to be in keeping with the time in our current state. Now, even as this bill is intended, or this motion is intended to increase the time without the technology being implemented across all constituencies and in all polling stations. In the last election, and using the data and using experience and the information, there are polling stations that don't even have light, and it was still used. And we do have information. I can speak in relation to Portland Eastern. There were polling stations that were allowed to stay beyond the 5 p.m. time. And what happened during that time, the integrity of the voting process was compromised. Not the last election. That is exact, at 5. But to increase it at 6, and we're dealing with the time, and we're dealing with how the sun rises and how the sun sets, and that's something that we have to look at. And so we're talking about all of those things when we think about the integrity, right? And I don't need to coin a term, but to say that the thieves come out at night. Right, and people need to understand that. I could direct that to you as well, but you haven't said that on record. But while it is that we must, when considering the electoral process, to ensure that voters and the voting process is not compromised and persons are disenfranchised, time constraints is also important, given the reality of Jamaica. So I just simply, in relation to motion 4, to say that I would invite this House to also reject the increase in time. I do support you on motion 1 in its entirety. Thank you. Again, people, remember, we are also airing on Best FM 100 on your FM dial. So again, thank you for joining us. If we're welcome back, we are at 6:07, And if you're joining from Reggae Global Radio, thank you for staying. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here with me on Context Matters. For those of you who are watching from Coda Network, big up yourself. That's the Caribbean Netflix. And for those of you who are watching on the YouTube, I see the comments and I can tell you it off the chain. And my moderator walking in divine purpose say I must have said nothing until you donate to the GoFundMe. So I know I said nothing. Silence! But if you're on TikTok, you know it is. Big up on yourself. Shout out to Lexi, my top gifter today. Big up yourself. I see you. As well as anybody else who would have gifted me. Respect to you. So walking in divine, you let me know. And again, welcome to our listeners from Best FM 100. You are listening to Context Matters. And if you are listening to this voice and you recognize it, yeah, it is Isaac Buchanan, attorney at law and member of parliament for Portland Eastern. That's a big deal in the local space, you know, but you know how it goes. So we are talking about Context Matters, connecting the dots and knowledge versus speculation. So this week in Parliament, just an update. There were many things that were going on, including an amendment. Let me start. I just played the video with myself, my contribution to the motion to amend the ROPA, that's the Representation of Persons Act, to allow for the voting time to be increased by 1 hour. So voting would be later and it would be end when it's much darker outside. I took the position that I could not support this amendment, motion 4, brought by 11,000 vote, 8-time winner MP, Mr. Errol Warmington, because naturally there was some real voter irregularity in the local government election in 2024. In particular, Colin Bell, the councillor candidate for the Fellowship Division, People's National Party, he had to watch the polling stations in Fellowship, in particular Bellevue Division, stay open well past 9 o'clock. And one need not to say that the result of that was that he lost that election by 100 and something votes. But I'm going to maintain that the thieves come out at night. And one of the things to protect the integrity of the electoral process is to understand the nature of the environment. In the rural area, certainly in country and the hills and the valleys, night come down quick. Peeny Wally come out after 5:30, especially when you're having elections, when it's no longer summer. Night come down much quicker. I look outside my window right now and it's night time. And it's only 6:10. So one must appreciate that if people can be buying vote and inking people and doing all of the despicable things that cannot be regulated by the JCF and the EOJ and the ECJ and the observers therein, then why would you want to increase the time but to introduce something nefarious in the electoral process? So of course, among others, that was the one that I particularly had to say that I cannot support in any shape or form. There was also a push to amend the ROPA to allow persons who were 18 to be elected officials, and a removal of the constitutional provision, reference to the Constitution, which would open up a whole can of worms. But that motion was withdrawn by the member bringing the motion. There was also just all the ROPA amendments, the leader of opposition government business as well, and made their, and as well as the chairman of the party, would have made contributions to say that, listen, when it comes to the ROPA, the ECJ, the EOJ, they are the best persons to look at the legislation, and we shouldn't be trying to pass legislation and pass motions and try to bring bills before the parliament until we have proper consultation and guidance from the very people who are able to look at this. So lawmakers don't operate in a bubble. And notwithstanding that, we were divided, we were united on motion 1, which was about the road, the scheme roads in the relevant jurisdictions. But we were divided on 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which was to accept any mark using a pencil for voter intention, one particular type of tool. They bring in indoor agents within the precincts of voting, outdoor agents within the precincts of the voting station, and some other, I'm not going to call them nonsensical, but the integrity of the voting process is what should always be protected, especially when you're inviting people to respect the results of elections at the end of it. You cannot be introducing opportunities for a person to bring illegality in the electoral process. Remember, the government of the day is the government with a small number of the population that voted for them more than everybody. Collectively, the constituencies that they have won by to form the government has been 1,000 or under in terms of the totality of votes. So one has to appreciate that, rather than ensuring that the voter turnout is more and people are wanting to be a part of the voting process, so a larger number of the population participates in the voting process. More things are being done to turn off people. But here we are. They use their majority to push through the motions, and the motions is advancing as it goes along. So, my people, I put you on notice that to respect your wishes and ensure that the voting process is done with the highest form of integrity. The integrity which is absent in other places resides in you. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And you don't have to sit in high places to maintain your integrity. Are just you and God and time, and you're not required to do nothing else but to respect yourself and to respect the voting process. I must say that so people can appreciate that. Right? Yes, I know that walking in the vine. May I make people know, say we on Best FM. I think even she messaging me. Let me see. Your face is not showing on the screen. You don't see my face now. You see my face now? Yeah, right. So just wanted to make that clear. Where that is concerned. But also, there was a conversation about the jury. This is I'm gonna have a whole show dedicated to the jury system in Jamaica. And why is this important? Well, there has always been a call from the judiciary, our Chief Justice. If it were up to him, cases would be tried by a judge alone. But he's from where he sits, he has an administrative mandate that he has to fix. For us to be one of the leading courts in the world, we have to clear the backlog. What countries would have done to clear backlogs naturally is to introduce a robust plea agreement system. The incentives to plead guilty in the United States, especially in federal court, is phenomenal. They are so obsessed with conviction rates that they would soon give you a month, 12 months, 36 months for crimes which you could have gotten 10 years, 20 years for, just for you to get the conviction and get out of there and get in their systems so you can reoffend and continue the cycle and keep the prison industries, Unicorp, Bureau of Prisons, CCA, private prisons going, and the rental of beds. And somebody asked me, do you believe in what? I don't know. That one passed me. And for the person who says, yeah. So that's it. That's important to note that that's very important to note that the a robust plea agreement system may very well assist in clearing the backlogs. I'm seeing the plea agreement system at work, but whether it's beneficial or whether it's something that we can do, that is important. But what we can say for sure is that we just have to keep looking at the process. So the jury system, it is important that the society is included in the process. Oh, no, I don't believe in judge alone trials. In fact, I think it is suicide for a defendant to opt for a judge alone trial. And so as a defense attorney, I would never advise a client to do judge alone trials. And if they decide to do judge alone trials, they would have to sign the requisite form after I've advised them never to do so. So my position on judge alone trials is that I wouldn't advise any defendant to do judge alone trials. But many defendants have notwithstanding opted to do judge alone trials. And that's from the old adage, I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6 or judged by 1. So you get a sense of why a jury of your peers is important. Well, it was said that the jury is the last bastion of hope for a defendant who is brought before the court. It's actually a protection from the state, which purpose is to convict you. And you have to look at what a judicial system is about and whether or not implicit bias creeps itself into the process. One only has to look to the importance of the jury system that the most seminal case in Jamaica to date has brought to the front amendments to the Jury Act. So if the integrity of the jury system is not intact, then a conviction must be quashed, especially where there's no evidence that the defendant participated in any tampering. This is important for you to appreciate, because the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, he brought amendments to the Jury Act, and a question was raised to him, certainly by me, about first welcoming, because the amendment to the Jury Act was one to increase the amount of stipend jurors get. So jurors used to get $2,000 a day, and sometimes you can imagine do a trial that lasts 4 months and you're only getting $2,000 a day and you don't have the ability to go and work. Well, it's now $6,000 a day. That's a 300% increase, and that is very, 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 very excellent. I can't think of any lawmaker, I can't think of anybody in the public that would go against such an amendment. So I know that that will go through unanimously. There is a no, use the phone number, not the email. Use the phone number, not the email. All right. And that's for Michael Gordon 5311. I'm so sorry for the loss of your dad. There's, as I said, many persons. This week I found out that John Forte died. He was a member of the Fugees All Star, and I can tell you, I was shocked about that. So condolences to you. I'm not seeing the message, so condolences to you for the loss of your dad, and I hope that your family can definitely get through this loss. Miss Dallas, condolences to you and your family. Now, I want to say that somebody said juries get $15 US. I don't know where that is, but just to say again that that amendment is welcome. The next amendment was about the election of trial by judge, where there's evidence of tampering and several other things. Now, one of the things that came up in the Sean Campbell case, the seminal case, was that Jamaica didn't have in its legislation the judge's ability to dismiss the jurors and proceed with trial by judge alone. So that was a defect in the legislation because it never contemplated jury tampering. I must say to you that the jury tampering, there was no evidence whatsoever that the jury tampering could have been attributed to the defendants. So one wonders who was responsible for the jury tampering. Yeah? But you're welcome, Miss Dallas 262. But we leave that alone. What I will say though is that the legislation and cases made it quite clear that where it is only where there is evidence that the defendants participated in the jury tampering that they lose their right to trial by jury. So again, we can't pass legislation willy-nilly to just allow for the ability for a judge or a court to take away the right to trial by jury. And so with that in queue, we'll talk more about that when discussions about whether or not we should keep the jury rears its ugly head again. And I know that Justice Sykes, in his opulent and most erudite self, would have made his position clear that the elimination of the jury trial would make the court work a lot more efficient. But from a defense perspective, the jury is of utmost importance. And it's ironic because I raised the point to the minister in parliament. The debate hasn't started yet, but what would be the purpose of increasing the amount for juries if there's a possibility that we would be abolishing jury trials in this country? That question was never answered. But also, here's why context matters. I also asked him, why send the issue of whether or not we should eliminate jury trials to a joint select committee when it really should go to the public? Now, the minister's response was that, hey, you're a first-time MP and you've never done a joint select committee, so clearly you don't know what it is. Not true. Many legislations have been amended, and I have clearly made contributions in other capacities. Certainly, I'm an attorney, so one must know what that is. The idea of the public, though, is a question that must be asked. Who is the public? Who, as the court would say, is an interested party that would want to say that I am affected by this decision? No, the trial by jury, the person most affected, and right now there's a case with a police officer, famous case. I don't know if it's Noel Maitland who is charged for murdering his girlfriend Donnelly, and I think the defense is up at the bar right now. And I don't know if the case has ended or if it's going to end tomorrow or where they are. But you see, one can only imagine how stressful it would be if it were trial by judge alone. And his last hope for a verdict of not guilty, certainly in his mind, is to be tried by a jury of his peers who could listen to people in authority, that speaks to defending his presumption of innocence. Mind you, this case has already been tried in the media, and persons have already have had their decisions. It may be dangerous that maybe some of those persons are on the jury, but the judge in his wisdom will give the instructions, and probably polling was done, the things that are necessary to ensure that, to the best of the judicial ability and the integrity of the court, that a jury, unbiased, whether implicitly or explicitly, sits on the jury and can render a verdict of guilt or not guilty after hearing the evidence, because it's evidence that works in court. And whether the evidence is direct or circumstantial, it must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And it is why it is so important that fresh eyes are put onto matters. So it's also why you must always respect people, no matter who them is, because let me tell you something. When I say who the public is, I'm not talking joint select. I'm talking about the people most affected by a decision to remove the jury. So naturally, people who never are going to interface with the law, or so them say, it would never happen to me, and my sons and daughters will never be arrested by the police because I'm UPT, I'm from Upper St. Andrew. We don't do those things. It's not going to happen to us. So do away with the jury. I'm a part of that. Them people, if them not supposed to make a decision as to whether or not the jury system should be kept, because they say he who feels it knows it. The dilemma that we face when I ask the question to the minister, how are you going to interface with the public? Of course, he said to me that them will go to prison, but I think those people in prison already either use a jury or don't use a jury, and how them feel about it may be like, me wouldn't want a jury trial because them find me guilty. And you're not going to come across somebody that says, hey, I plan to commit 7 murders this year, and should I get caught, I still want to be tried by a jury. So please don't do away with the jury for administrative efficiency. After all, the jury is the last bastion of hope, and I wanted to be judged by a jury of my peers who understand the real workings of society and is not clouded by being a part of the upper echelons of society and the authority of this country. Judges are constitutional creatures. Judges also are supposed to be the protectors, the custos morum of the Constitution, but they're also special class, so much so that you can't murder them, Because if you do that, it's capital murder. Same for politicians and police officers and government officials. The law protects a certain class. So to be judged by the protected class may be problematic. It may be. And that's the context that people have to be able to ventilate the science, because there are countries that have abolished the jury system. What their conviction works. But you can see the GoFundMe Zelle to donate. Thanks. Yeah. So walking in divine purposes for the tablets, bed, drums, etc. You can see the GoFundMe or Zelle to donate. Thanks. Yeah, but anyway, we have to look at this with the most mature consideration possible, because we may be going down a slippery slope. Already it is that the police officers are actually the judge and the jury, and certainly persons are suspects or so said to be wanted of crimes and are murdered, and before they get before the court, much less to do away with the jury, who would be able to make determinations. When you think of matters such as rape, when you think of cases as murder, when you think of cases that is a matter of credibility, you would appreciate how it is, especially in a system where, like right now, the most offensive and repugnant legislation that is before that is operating in Jamaica is the firearms legislation. It's nonsensical mission to destroy the lives of young people, and the response is if them don't touch the gun, they won't be in trouble. Except that majority of the cases before the court, no gun is recovered, and it's a credibility issue. The very judges are fatigued with the overwhelming cases, and these cases aren't tried by juries, tried by judge alone. And then what you have is the fixing of the files in such a way that it hits all the evidentiary points and lead to one conclusion, which is guilt. Also turning ordinary citizens into criminals by criminalizing toy guns and forcing people to go to trial because mandatory minimum sentences are in effect. So again, one wonders about whether we need a robust plea agreement legislation that can set and correct young people so that they can become productive members of society. And I can tell you, we are regressing, because I don't think that in this country, rehabilitation is something that is believed in. And so as a person who has gone through the American justice system, and rehabilitation has taken place in such a way that I'm an attorney at law and a member of parliament, that those facilities aren't available to a son of Jamaica anymore. In fact, I think that there is effort to ensure that a repeat of the level of rehabilitation, self-rehabilitation at that, is not repeated, and clogs and fetters put in the way of other people's children to prevent them from becoming the best versions of themselves. It's something that we ought to look at when we're thinking about having the knowledge versus the speculation. And so ideas of expungements, Jury Act, Criminal Administration Act, just legislations that the cross application of the legislation it's intriguing, very intriguing, and we will revisit it when when the time comes to see what that looks like. Now, having said all of this, been talking for a very long time. Again, if we are connecting the dots, we have to be able to understand the logic. We must be able to use argument by induction, be able to use argument by deduction to come to conclusions that make sense, and conclusions as well with facts that are not belief, but facts that when you put it into your formula, the conclusions are one which you can say. You might not be saying beyond a reasonable doubt, except if you're in a court of law, but you can say, I'm satisfied that the position I'm taking is an informed one. Right? So again, when we, with the events of Parliament, looking forward to addressing both the protection of the jury system as well as the welcome amendment that jurors who ought to be respected as judges of the facts are paid for their time in such a way that if you're called to do jury duty and they don't pick you, you get a $2,000 a day for wasting your time going to the court and not making it on the jury. So it's not time wasted, you make money. And for those who sit on the jury, no matter how long it is, $6,000 a day. If it's 5 days, it's $30,000 a week. Yeah. So a four week trial, you get, if I'm correct, right? You get $120,000. So context definitely matters. That is a lot better than a situation of having to go there and being paid a measly $2,000, which probably can't even transport you to and fro. Somebody said, why does police wear masks? It could be any of one behind that. It should not be allowed. That is for the commissioner to address the balaclava mask and the head scarves and all of these things that they do. But I don't think this is the day for to be picking on the police for every little thing. It's about protecting and serving. It's about just looking at the reality. I mean, again, remember, we talk about why the Constitution is so important. Here it is, a top senior member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, member of CTOC at that, charged for cocaine, granted $2 million bail. I mean, people would be upset, but the nature of that crime is that persons get bail all the time. So I hope nobody thinks that he should be deprived of bail because of how they feel. Yeah, because bail is as of right. It's a constitutional right that only in extraordinary circumstances should bail be refused. Whether or not that is how it operates is another situation. But again, manufacturing the circumstances has become very administrative and very procedural in such a way that, again, the dangers of trial without a jury is loud. Right. So that is a serious consideration to be had where that is concerned. But again, sometimes the people who we are judging as the worst are not the worst, and we should move away from the level of discrimination that we have, and we should move away from depriving people of their freedom to not have to go to work, freedom to figure out life in their own time, freedom to decide that maybe TikTok is a space that I want to be famous and I want to make my money, freedom to figure out life in this new modern space run by AI and run by social media. Yeah. So that when we see persons in high authority being called up to answer to crimes, we're not surprised, or we don't, or we celebrate, because the system is designed for everybody, and which is why we try to ensure that the integrity of the very system is intact. I mean, one would have to sit down, and you don't have to be an overthinker to think that when we have members of the law enforcement agencies being locked up for committing crimes, and we're not talking about extrajudicial killings, but other crimes that are serious crimes, one has to wonder if there is a mission to eliminate their competitors. And if people can just die so easily, then one wonders if the act of just extrajudicial killing people is not the new way to just eliminate your competitors. I mean, what if persons are murdered because they are in the same business as top-ranking members of the police force? How does that look? And again, the actions of one, like persons who get to go foreign and mash up the business so that no, they must say you can't just migrate, so an immigrant visa have to go shut down till we fix the system because too much illegality is going on in the process. It's the same way when one police officer finds himself on the wrong side of the law, it paints a bad picture on all officers. And it makes it very difficult to reignite the overall integrity of that profession. And we have to think about that all the time when we're having these interactions. I mean, there are cross professions, of course, but we're talking about for the legal ones. Somebody said a lot of the crimes are police officers, just like I think they set up that young soldier. I don't know. Walking in Divine says, I'm with Donald Trump, clean up. While him cleaning up, I hope he takes a look at our government for the money. Some persons are with no charge are still sitting in prison. Yep. And that is the harsh reality. But no one is above the law, and the sooner that prisoner make for dog, you know. It might be unsanitary and come with leptospirosis and chink bite and all kind of sitting. But it no make for dog. So anyone at any time can find themselves in a place like that, and which is why human rights reign. Human rights supreme. Constitution is the dawn of all dawns. No other dawn in Jamaica but the Constitution. And the importance of respecting it is where we must find that middle ground, that balance, so that we don't flip-flop and be selective in how we deal with we're not selective in how we want people to go to jail. Not one by one, but every day people go to jail. Every single day people go into jail. And that is the reality. And the extraordinary powers used to prevent your favorite people from going to jail is something that may very well have to be cut out. And we start to think about the more realistic place to say that we are a no-nonsense country, that we don't accept corruption, we don't accept umpy-scumpy behavior. We don't accept abuse of authority and abuse of power. We certainly don't accept abuse of process. And so when we start ensuring that when people are wrongfully arrested, that it comes through maybe a salary reduction. When people are prosecuted unfairly, it comes with consequences, especially when we can show that it is a vindictive prosecution, even when evidence is not present, that there's a decision is made to put somebody through an ordeal. That's what the word is. Yes, that is what we have to look like when we still put somebody through an ordeal. How do we compensate them from that? Vindicatory damages, Rooks and Bernard, exemplary damages. These things are what we need to be looking at in terms of compensation, and judges must be heavy-handed with the compensation. Wrongful death, wrongful arrest, without interference by government who decide that no sir, one man not forget so much money and it's too excessive, and plus them family was poor, so the family shouldn't be allowed to spend it. Further punishment. And I can speak on that in relation to a George Williams who spent 50 years in prison, and today the government refuses to pay because they can use the process to ensure that he doesn't get a benefit and drag it through the court until he's dead. These kind of abuses of processes, and you should see sometimes the person behind the decisions that are taken to be heartless to people. Right? And Judith Hibbert says, Isat, how about the innocent, and she called me Mass Isat, how about the innocent men that the people unalive and is saying it's a shootout? How is it the police don't have a scar? Are they invisible when they say it's a shootout? Well, that's what Indicom had said in their report, that when they say it's a shootout, when they do recover a firearm, that particular firearm didn't even shoot a bullet. Or if at any time that firearm did go off, it didn't connect with and injure any police officer in that particular shootout where a citizen of this country has died. And so it's just a matter of looking at it and saying whether or not this is fair. But again, when we're connecting the dots, remember, it's not limited. There was a time when Amnesty International, when the extrajudicial killings in the past, a death squad was identified and the families of those police officers were punished. Visas were taken away, not just from the police officers, but the family. And life was hard for them, a sanction. And so remember, we as a nation cannot commit the death penalty. 1988 was the last time, and we're 2 years away from 2028. So you must know how long ago that was. Very important to know. Yeah. So again, we take these things lightly, but we're on the edge of it being 40 years that Jamaica hasn't committed the death penalty, unless you're using extrajudicial killings as the means to do so. But Amnesty International, I'm sure, is reviewing it now. Hugh Faulkner and his report showing that 56 investigations led to the arrest of officers and correctional officers as well. So when persons are given this power, this wide power, how they use it is going to be important. But again, as we connect the dots, we just have to look at where the respect lies in this society, and the type of respect that we're talking about. Somebody said, I think the shootout is a cliche, sir. Innocent persons' lives is being taken away, and why is Andrew silent as the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister is not silent. The Prime Minister actually said, save yourselves. That's his response. And he has also come in complete defense of the actions of the police and saying that if they're not challenged, then the people won't die. So again, it's important to be in the knowledge so that we don't just accuse people. What I will say is that, and I've said this in many spaces, that life is something given to us without knowing where to receive it. And so we should be the last person to take away people's lives without judicial pronouncements. And judicial pronouncements in the Jamaican context is nothing further than a life sentence. That's my belief. So and I have to just believe in what I'm saying where that is concerned. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Again, it is knowledge versus speculation. And just to provide some context before I close the show, because very important, right? The activity of guessing possible answers to a question without having enough information to be certain. Rumors that they are about to murder or have committed murder has been dismissed as pure speculation. Speculation about his future plans is rife. I'm just using it. So that's what speculation means. When you look at knowledge, it's fact, information, and skills acquired through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject, thirst for knowledge, awareness or familiarity gained by experience of a fact or situation, right? That's what going into the knowledge means. So when you have the facts, you're not speculating, and this is so important for us to get there, because if you're going to connect the dots, they can't just throw something at you and speculate. They can't just tell you, say, this is the situation. They can't just come on the internet and say the MP do this and everybody start cuss the MP, or the MP not do this, or they can't just come and say the person murdered that person and you believe, the person is a rapist and you believe, the person is a this, the person is a that, the person is a thief. You can't just do that. Evidence must come to the forefront. When it becomes clear as day, then naturally you're going to say, well, I have enough information that I don't think I'm speculating. And even if I'm wrong, I'm willing to go down the road to be wrong. That's a different position, because you have taken mature consideration and you've looked at all the facts and you've come to a decision. You don't just generalize and discriminate and use all of the tools that is offensive to paint people's kids with a broad brush, to just decide that, and people must also look at, that's why we talk about God on time, We don't just get up and just speculate. We don't just to serve an interest, just put information out there and then run with it. We're not in school anymore. This is not sports day when you just, because you want your side to win, you do your cheers and if you did go Salamars, you said Joseph is the best, Goretti can't test, Benedict is slow, and sing your cheers or whatever. This is real life, and it comes with consequences. And so people are to also be responsible with their freedom of expression. And even if you're not responsible with your freedom of expressions, the consequences cannot be your life. The consequences cannot be your livelihood. And people mustn't be on a mission to muzzle people or assassinate their characters to push the necessary agendas. This is just the reality. But I'm going to leave it there and to say to people that thank you guys for watching. For those of you, if you can't watch, remember, if you're in the local space, Best FM 100 is the station that Context Matter is on. My people in the diaspora, Reggae Global Radio remains a flagship station. YouTube, TikTok, thank you guys for all watching. Thank you for interacting. Thank you for those who don't like Context Matters but take it as an opportunity to come onto the space and be disrespectful in the comments. Without you, the show would never go on. Your presence here increases the numbers, and it's your visit is activity for my page. So don't be a stranger. All right, do your best. And see you guys next time. My YouTube people, believe me. Blessings to you. And for anybody who, thanks to those who donated to the GoFundMe and the Zelle. Appreciate you. Your donation will not be in vain. The work is continuing, and you will see some significant projects that have started and is continuing. So blessings to you, and see you guys next week. Blessings.
It took some time to understand, yeah, just what it takes to be a man. Now it seems each day you learn something to make a better way. Growing up ain't just a phase, it's reality. And sometimes it's hard to face the world with your head screwed on. But in time you will see it comes naturally, like the hurt and the pain. It's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. You know I heard them say life much better you live it your own way. But if you need a helping hand, just call on me, I will be your friend. And when it gets hard to face the world with your head screwed on, just tell yourself you can. And that's when you'll understand that the hurt and the pain, it's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep you stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. You gotta keep on moving on. Don't let no one stand in your way. Gotta keep on pressing on. As we pray for better days, keep it moving. Moving next. When they try to bring you down, we gotta take it to the next level when they come around. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep head up and keep it stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. Just keep your head up, yeah. Just keep your head up, yeah. Gotta keep your head up, yeah. Cause everything's gonna be alright.
Keep your head up. Keep your head up. Your head up.
Cause everything's gonna be alright.